The world was still dark when my eyes opened. Outside the small window of my cabin, only the faintest line of grey showed above the tall black shapes of the mountains. It was very early. The air was cold on my face. I pulled the warm blanket a little closer and listened. There was no sound, not the sound of cars, not the sound of people. There was only a deep, powerful silence. It was the kind of quiet that feels full, not empty. It felt ancient and calm, a silence that has lived in these high places for thousands of years. I did not want to rush. The morning was a gift to be opened slowly. I lay there for a few more minutes, just breathing. The smell of pine wood from the cabin walls was gentle and comforting. It mixed with the crisp, clean scent of the mountain air through tiny cracks. I thought about the day ahead. Finally, I slipped out of the warm bed. My feet were cold on the wooden floor. I walked to the window and looked out. The grey line was now a soft band of orange and pink. It was like a painter had brushed a single gentle stroke across the dark canvas of the sky. The highest peaks of the mountains were just beginning to catch this new light. They looked like giants slowly waking from a long sleep. It was a sight of incredible beauty, a private show just for me. This single moment made the entire journey worthwhile. It was a reminder of the simple, profound wonders the natural world offers us when we take the time to look. My first task was to make a cup of tea. The small actions felt important here. I filled the kettle with cold, clear water from a jug. I lit the small gas stove, and the sound of the flame was a soft hiss in the quiet room. As the water heated, I watched the light outside grow stronger. The dark shapes of the trees became green. The colours of the world were returning. The whistle of the kettle was a cheerful sound that broke the silence. I poured the hot water over a tea bag in my favourite mug. The steam rose, carrying the warm, earthy smell of the tea. It was a simple, perfect start. With the warm mug in my hands, I stepped outside onto the small wooden porch. The air was sharp and cold, but it felt wonderfully fresh. It woke up my senses completely. I took a slow sip of my tea and looked at the world around me. The sun was now climbing above the distant ridge, and its golden light was pouring into the valley. It touched the tops of the pine trees, making them glow. A few small birds began to sing their morning songs. Their calls were clear and sweet in the crisp air. After my tea, it was time to prepare for my walk. I did everything slowly and with care. I pulled on my thick wool socks, making sure they were smooth and comfortable. Then I put on my walking boots. I laced them up tightly, tying each knot with attention. This simple act felt like a ritual, a promise to the mountain that I would walk with respect and awareness. I filled my water bottle and put it in my small backpack. I packed a simple lunch of bread, cheese. I was ready. There was no hurry. The journey itself was the purpose. I started my walk on a narrow path that led away from the cabin and up into the trees. The ground was soft with fallen pine needles. With each step, a rich, earthy smell rose from the forest floor. Damp soil, decaying leaves, sweet resin from the pine trees. The morning sun sent long, beautiful rays of light down through the branches. They looked like golden pillars holding up the forest canopy. Dust motes danced in these beams of light. I walked slowly, my footsteps making a soft crunching sound. The air was filled with the subtle sounds of the forest waking up. I could hear the gentle rustle of leaves as a small breeze moved through the branches. Farther away, a woodpecker was drumming against a tree trunk. I stopped for a moment just to listen, closing my eyes to focus on the sounds. It was a symphony of small, natural noises that you would never hear in the city. Each sound was a part of the whole, a note in the mountain's morning song. It was a world that was very much alive, and I felt privileged to be a quiet visitor within it. As I climbed higher, the path became a little steeper. Narrow, winding path with wildflowers. The dense forest of pine trees started to thin, giving way to more open spaces. This allowed the sun to shine more directly on me. I could feel its warmth on my back, a pleasant contrast to the cool morning air. The views began to open up. Through gaps in the trees, I could now see the valley I had left behind. The small cabin looked like a tiny toy from this height. Seeing how far I had come gave me a small sense of achievement, a quiet satisfaction in the steady progress of my own 2 feet. The landscape changed with the elevation. The tall pines were replaced by shorter, tougher trees that clung to the rocky ground. Wildflowers started to appear alongside the path. Bright blue bells, vibrant purple flowers, and sunny yellow ones that seemed to soak up the sunlight. I stopped to look closely at one of them. Its petals were so perfectly formed, its colour so pure. It was a tiny piece of artistry, created by nature with no audience in mind. The sounds changed too. The song of the birds was fainter, replaced by the whisper of the wind as it moved across the open mountainside. It was a constant, soft, whooshing sound, like the mountain was breathing. I could also hear the distant call of a hawk circling high above. Its cry was sharp and wild, a sound that belonged to these high, empty spaces. It made me feel very small, a temporary guest in a vast and powerful world. It was a humbling feeling, but not a frightening one. I found a large flat rock that was warm from the sun and decided to take a short rest. I sat down and took a long drink from my water bottle. The water was cool and refreshing. From here I could see across to the other side of the valley. The opposite mountain was a huge wall of grey rock and green patches of vegetation. A thin waterfall, like a silver thread, tumbled down its side. I watched it for a long time, mesmerized by the constant silent motion. The world felt so big, and I felt so wonderfully insignificant. All my everyday worries seemed to melt away in the face of such grand scale. Continuing my walk, I soon heard a new sound, growing louder and louder. It was the sound of rushing water. The path led down into a small dip, and there in front of me was a stream. It was not very wide, perhaps only a few meters across, but the water was moving quickly. It tumbled and churned over a bed of smooth grey stones. The water was crystal clear, so clear that I could see every single pebble on the bottom. The sun sparkled on its surface, creating a dazzling display of light. This was my small challenge for the day: how to get to the other side without getting my feet soaked. I walked along the bank for a few meters, looking for the best place to cross. Some of the stones were large and flat, sticking out of the water like natural stepping stones. They seemed to form a rough path across the stream. This looked like my best option. I took a moment to study the arrangement, planning my route from one stone to the next. A small feeling of nervousness mixed with excitement came over me. It was not a real danger, but it was a puzzle that nature had set for me, a small test of balance and careful judgment. It was a welcome interruption in the easy rhythm of the walk. My heart beat a little faster as I took the first step onto a large, stable-looking rock near the edge. It was solid under my boot. I paused, found my balance, and then reached my leg out to the next stone. This one was a bit smaller and slightly wobbly. I had to place my foot carefully in the center to keep it from tipping. I used my arms to balance, stretching them out to my sides like a tightrope walker. The sound of the rushing water was loud in my ears. The cold spray from the stream felt refreshing on my face. I was completely focused on the task, my mind empty of everything else. Step, pause, balance, step, pause, balance. The final stone was close to the other bank. I took a small leap and landed softly on the grassy earth on the other side. I turned around and looked back at the stream. A wave of relief and a small burst of pride washed over me. I had solved the puzzle. It was a simple thing, crossing a stream, but it felt like a significant victory. It was a reminder that challenges, no matter how small, can make us feel more capable and alive. The rest of the walk would feel even sweeter after this small adventure. By the time the sun was directly overhead, I had reached a wide grassy plateau near the summit. The wind was stronger up here, but the sun was wonderfully warm. This was the perfect place to stop for my midday meal. I found a sheltered spot behind a large outcrop of rock that blocked the wind. I took off my backpack and sat down on the soft, springy grass. The view from this spot was breathtaking. I could see for miles and miles in every direction. Range after range of mountains stretched out to the horizon, their peaks like waves of a great blue ocean. I unwrapped my simple lunch. Bread, cheese. Food always tastes better outdoors, especially after a long walk. As I ate, I watched the world from my high perch. A few fluffy white clouds drifted across the sky. They cast huge moving shadows across the mountainsides. The colours changed as they passed. It was like watching a slow, silent film. I felt completely at peace. A quiet observer sitting on top of the world. There was nowhere else I needed to be. This moment was complete in itself. After I finished eating, I lay back on the grass using my backpack as a pillow. I closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. I just listened. The main sound was the wind, a constant sighing presence. It whispered through the grasses, it whistled around the rocks, a clean, ancient sound carrying stories from far away. Occasionally, I heard the faint buzzing of an insect. These small sounds made the silence feel deeper. It was a stillness that calmed my mind and soothed my soul. Lying there with the sun on my face and the wind in my ears, I thought about the single pink flower I'd seen on the way up. Small and delicate, growing and thriving in a harsh place. A symbol of resilience. I felt a connection to that flower. Being alone up here, a quiet strength grew inside me. Not loud or proud, but a calm confidence. I was a small part of this vast landscape, like the flower, and I belonged here just as much as it did. The afternoon sun began to dip lower in the sky. Its light started to change. It was no longer the bright white light of midday, but a softer, more golden glow. It was time to start my journey back down. The descent was easier on my lungs, but harder on my knees. I had to take my time, choosing my footing carefully on the steep sections of the path. As I walked, I noticed how different everything looked in the afternoon light. The shadows were growing longer, stretching out like long, dark fingers across the valleys and slopes. The world was preparing for the evening. The weather began to change slightly. The few fluffy clouds I had seen earlier had started to gather together, forming larger, greyer masses in the west. The wind picked up a little, carrying a cooler feel with it. It was not threatening, but it was a clear signal that the day was drawing to a close. The mountains seemed to respond to this change. Their colours deepened, the greys of the rock becoming darker, the greens of the trees becoming richer. The whole scene took on a more dramatic and moody character. It was a beautiful transformation to witness, a reminder of how quickly things can change in these high places. As I made my way down through the forest, the light filtering through the trees was magical. The golden rays of the late afternoon sun pierced the canopy, creating a dappled, shifting pattern on the forest floor. It looked like a stained glass window, but one that was alive and constantly changing. The air was very still in the woods, protected from the wind that was blowing on the higher slopes. The birds, which had been quiet during the heat of the day, began to sing again. Their evening songs were softer and more melodic than their energetic morning calls. It was a peaceful soundtrack for my walk home. I reached the stream I had crossed earlier in the day. It looked different now, in the softer light. The fierce sparkle was gone, replaced by a smooth, silvery sheen. Crossing it again felt much easier. I knew the way, and I moved with more confidence from one stone to the next. Looking back at it from the other side, it felt like I was leaving the wilder part of the mountain behind. The path from here back to the cabin was familiar. A feeling of contentment settled over me. It had been a full and wonderful day. I felt tired in my body, but my mind was clear and my spirit was full. I arrived back at the cabin just as the sun was beginning to set. I sat down on the same porch where I had drunk my morning tea. The sky was now a spectacular canvas of colour. Fiery oranges, deep reds, soft purples, painting the clouds and the sky. The mountains were now turning into dark, majestic silhouettes. It was the exact opposite of the sunrise I had witnessed, but it was just as beautiful and just as moving. The day was ending with the same quiet grandeur with which it had begun. As the last sliver of the sun disappeared behind the farthest peak, a deep silence fell over the valley once more. The vibrant colours in the sky began to fade, softening into shades of lavender and grey. The first star appeared, a tiny, brilliant point of light in the darkening sky. Then another and another. Soon the entire sky was filled with countless stars. They shone with a clarity and brightness that you can only see far away from the lights of the city. It was an awesome final display, a reminder of the infinite universe that surrounds our small world. It made me feel a sense of wonder and awe. I thought again about the small, resilient pink flower I had seen on the mountainside. That image had stayed with me all day. It seemed to hold the lesson of my time alone. The flower was not lonely. It was simply living quietly and beautifully in the place where it belonged. It was not trying to be anything other than what it was. It was complete in itself. In the same way, being alone in the mountains had not felt like being lonely. It had felt like being whole. It was a chance to be quiet, to listen, and to simply be myself, a part of the vast and beautiful natural world. Solitude in nature is a gift. It is not about escaping the world, but about finding a deeper connection to it and to yourself. In the silence of the mountains, you can hear your own thoughts more clearly. You can notice the small, beautiful details that are usually lost in the noise of daily life. You learn that you are more capable and more resilient than you think. And you come away with a profound sense of peace. That single pink flower growing alone on the high slope was a perfect teacher. It showed me that there is a quiet strength and a deep beauty in simply being.